Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first Wednesday webinar of 2021. We've been off air for a few weeks, and that's because we've been preparing for and then hosting the Police Digital Summit. That took place last week, and if you weren't able to join us, then we have all of our sessions, 34 of them, across 3 days with 68 tremendous guests. They're all available for you to watch back on the Police Summit website. And we're just going to pop the link to that in the Q&A. So if you'd like to watch any of those sessions back, please do. However, we're now back in our regular slot, and to get us underway, we've got a lovely session lined up for you on Power BI. We have, of course, the Q&A. Please pop any questions that you have about today's session in there, and we'll answer them as we go along and then do a few more towards the end of the session. And don't forget that this session that is just 30 minutes long will be recorded. So if you want to watch it back, or if you want to share it with any of your colleagues, it will be available later today on our website. So we've got a couple of smashing guests lined up for you today from Microsoft and from West Yorkshire Police. But to introduce those to you, first we're going to hear from Rhys Willis, who's the Benefits Manager here at the NEP. So Rhys, over to you.
Thanks, Lorraine. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for dialing in. Great that we've seen so many people. Now got 19 forces live with NEP tools and capabilities, which is fantastic news. Over 115,000 officers and staff are utilising the tools and capabilities of the Microsoft platform, which is great for policing. What we saw, or what we have seen, is interest and focus on manipulation of police data at the moment. It certainly came out of the PITCO event last week. And today's webinar is in place of focusing on that. So there's two strands to that aspect, and the strands being that the first one is Microsoft. So we have Martin here from Microsoft, who will showcase the capabilities of Power BI and explain what can be done with that. With a caveat to that in relation to the fact that obviously the MOU does not include Power BI. But the point is that there's a lot of interest on this, as can be seen by the attendees. Therefore, we really want to try and understand what can be done for policing. The next bit is really important for us and really grateful for West Yorkshire Police. So we've got Steve, Danny and Neil on, who are going to show us how they're utilising this from a daily deployment and utilisation of the tools and really driving out the way that the force works. It's doing this live in West Yorkshire Police now. Really good feedback from the team there and from officers and staff. So we want to work with them on that and understand that more. Finally, what we want to do is probably beyond this, if the interest is there, is to hold a closed workshop, because the guys from West Yorkshire can't obviously show live data. A bit like the intelligence webinar we showed before, the live data can't be shown for obvious reasons, because this can be shown on YouTube later. What we're going to do after this, if interest is there, is have a workshop where we can invite police colleagues in, and then we can have a Q&A session with users of this and really understand what can be done. So without further ado, I'm now going to pass over to Martin from Microsoft. Thanks very much.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Rhys. Fantastic to be here today. Obviously, just to spend a few minutes with you before the West Yorkshire Police guys obviously cover the great work that they've been doing. I think it's really important right at the moment as the world thinks about sort of rebuilding for the future. And one of the organisations, or sort of should say considerations across all the organisations, is how do we make better decisions moving forward. There's obviously going to be less room for error, potentially less budget, and less tolerance for those sort of gut feel decisions. And it's quite interesting looking at Sir Thomas Windsor's sort of recent State of Policing report, where he actually touches on this as well. As you can see there, without being able to analyse data comprehensively and systematically, policing won't be as efficient as it can be. So where does Power BI sort of fit within this? And it's all about really making decisions, making smarter decisions and making decisions at speed. So we'll quickly touch on some of this. Obviously, as it said there, it's all about decision making, improving the process, but how can we move as well from insight to action as well? So it's all well and good, obviously, in covering some of those insights, but how do we then take action on that? I'll quickly, we've not got too much time to go into much detail, but I'll quickly show you how you could potentially connect to disparate data sources. I know there's a multitude across the forces, being a niche, being just a few. But one of the key things as well is obviously around self-service as well, enabling individuals to be able to obviously interrogate that data to get some insights from that. And the last thing, which I'll just quickly call out there, is the ability to obviously cross-collaborate across agencies as well. There's quite a few organisations I've worked with over the years where I guess that's been done typically through Excel spreadsheets that have been password protected and sent by email, etc. So the idea here is that we can absolutely create those insights and then share those as reports and dashboards across to those different agencies. So how does Power BI do it? So we are really the bridge between the data and the decisions. So we can connect to all sorts of data. That could be cloud data, it could be data on premises, or data which is held obviously within your four walls, within the force. And once we've got the actual data itself, we can actually then visualize, as you can see in the middle there, and get the insights using Power BI and very much Power BI desktop to do that. And once we've got those reports in place, then it's all about how could we potentially distribute those reports. Is it via a mobile device? Is it via the web? Is it via SharePoint online? Things like Teams. So taking advantage as well, as Reece just touched upon there about the MOU, actually sharing those insights on the technologies that you actually have and own today. Just quickly, just before I jump into a quick demo, I just wanted to touch on this as well. I mean, I've seen across forces and across industry in general, obviously a huge uptake in Teams usage across the world, and just wanted to highlight this one as well, because this really sort of analytics and BI, rather than just being a destination, rather than just being somewhere that you would go to, is now baked within the Office 365 platform as such. So if you just look down here where we've got the Power BI, now rather than going somewhere to access that, you can access the data and reports and the insights. If you've got access to that, then straight within Teams. So apart from using Teams, obviously collaboration and calling and meetings, now you can get access to those insights as well. As Reece touched on, very high level from a licensing perspective, everything that you're going to see today is with Power BI Desktop. In my section, it's a free authoring tool which you could go away and download today and make use of that. Once we get into the world of sharing and collaboration, that's where the Power BI Pro comes into play, and that's included either within Microsoft Office 365 E5 or as a standalone license. And then we won't spend any time on this, but Power BI Premium is really for those large scale deployments. So I'm just going to finish off the last couple of minutes before handing over to Steve, Danny and Neil around, just a quick example. How can we go from the data source, in this instance that you've seen on the left, which I've just quickly taken some data from data.police.uk, to a nice looking report on the right hand side, and how easy is it really to do that? So let me just quickly jump into Power BI Desktop. So this is Power BI Desktop, as I mentioned, the authoring tool, and this allows us basically to connect to the data. And the data which I've just pulled in is actually for West Yorkshire Police, and that was their street crime data. And within literally 10 clicks, I was able to connect to the data itself, bring the data in, and start getting some insights from that. So let me just quickly, in the interest of time, just build this example report out. So Power BI Desktop is very much like the Office suite. So if you're familiar with PowerPoint and Excel and Word, etc., we have the ribbon across the top, as you can see here. So we've got all the functionality which should look familiar. And then we have this concept of visuals to actually start building out the report itself. So in this visual here, I can just come over to the data which I've brought into the report, and I can then start to build out the report using these fields that you can see in the field well on the right hand side. So if I was interested in, I've got something called a shape map here. So if I was interested in, say, local authority and the total crimes by the local authority, I can literally just drag and drop the fields onto the report canvas, and now I've got a look and feel across the West Yorkshire region of what those crimes look like. I'll just quickly come onto this visual here, the month visual. Again, if I just drop in total crimes as the values, we can see the total crimes across a time period, as you can see here. And within this visualization canvas and framework up here, we can drop a visual on here. So we can drop a visual on the canvas, and then we can literally drag and drop or choose how we'd want to visualize the data. So in this instance, I've got a tree map. I could come in here and say, maybe I wanted to group by crime type and then by total crimes. Okay, so you can, I hope you get the idea. You can start building out or changing, obviously, how these visuals present themselves, as you see. So just quickly, I've got the shape map here. I'll just quickly show you a few of the bits and pieces before I hand over. So if I just hover over Calderdale as an example, there's a tendency in a sort of way where people tend to, and designers tend to try and put everything as much as possible on as a design page. But Power BI is very powerful in that we can allow drill down into specific capabilities. So if we look at Calderdale as an example, if I wanted to get a drill down onto the crimes within Calderdale as a local authority, then I can just go into this next page here, and we'll get a breakdown within the actual shape map itself. As you can see, Calderdale with the crimes on the left hand side. As you can see here, I can see that the town ward is the highest with 9,692 crimes. And it may be, if I was interested in vehicle crime across the Calderdale region, so I can see that we've got a slight change here. I can go to Brighouse. Maybe I just want to drill through to Brighouse in this case, and then start to get a view as to the crimes of the vehicle crimes within that area as well. So we can see here quickly, I get the actual ward itself, and then we get the actual incidents themselves, obviously mapped here within Azure Maps. The last thing I'll just quickly show you as well, so this was using the visuals, is this is quite new. This is the decomposition tree, and this allows us to slice and dice and break down the crimes, as you can see on the left hand side, by something called dimensions. So if I was again interested in, say, Calderdale, I could come in here and say, you know, just give me the highest value across crime type, location, month and ward, if I wasn't interested in a certain measure. So I could say, just give me the highest value, which in this case was the crime type. I'll just quickly, in the interest of time, just go back here and finish off with vehicle crime. So I can say, again, give me the highest value. Against, it was the ward name, which was town. I'm just going to quickly go here for Brighouse, and we can see that motorway service area was actually the highest crime area. And if I just hover over this, what we'll see is a quick tooltip which pops up and shows me those locations as well. So hopefully that, I'm just going to pass over to the West Yorkshire team now. That just hopefully gives you an idea as to how easy it was to take the raw data in its form, bring that into Power BI desktop as my authoring environment, and start getting some insights from that, all within using Power BI desktop in just a few clicks. So hopefully you've seen that. I'll pass over now to Steve, Danny and Neil.
Thanks, Martin. Hi, everybody. I'm Neil Williamson. I'm the Digital Delivery and Analytics Manager. It's a very short title for West Yorkshire Police. We are about 2 years on our journey with Power BI. We are using Power BI Premium. We're using it as part of our Office 365 NEP tenant, and that's been very successful. A lot of what Martin has shown us actually explains the justification as to why we've gone that route, to be quite honest with you. We have been modelling our work around the build our data team provide on a data warehouse, which has been providing us with almost, if not actual, real-time information from a lot of our core systems, including our crime system, our command and control system, HR, our duties management, and various other data sources as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's very short on time, and Danny's going to show some slides demonstrating. As Martin's highlighted, we can't, and Reese highlighted, we can't show you the real-time information, unfortunately, in this workshop. But if there's any follow-ups, we're more than happy to assist and demonstrate in those as well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Danny.
Thank you, Neil. Afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. Like I said, this is not a live demo, but we've got a PowerPoint of some slides of what we've created already. What you can see here is our district dashboard, which summarises a lot of our key kind of metrics across 5 different districts in West Yorkshire Police. Neil touched on about some of the data. We feed this through our kind of data warehouse, data lake model, and some of the benefits of that is having that consistency across the districts, having one version of the truth and not different districts reporting different numbers. A lot of the business logic as you go through different districts, we've had to codify within our data warehouse model. This gives us near real-time information. So this data dashboard is near real-time. We can set up alerts as well. So in terms of exception reporting, if a missing person goes to a certain level, all of these tiles, we can set an automated email. Diving straight into some of the reports. So on the dashboard, usually you'll click on all these tiles and it'll take you to a specific report it relates to. And this one shown here is around crime reporting. And obviously the size of the bubble here is the number of events that it's counting. So it might be a bit small, but these are the categories of crime that we report on, and that's shown on the map. The redacted information is usually coming from our ERP system, niche things around the type of offence, when it happened, the address details, all called from our source systems, and usually that's disparate data sources, and this allows us to pull it into one place and visualize it. Historically, this was possible, but they had to go direct to the niche system, ERP system, probably pulled it into Google Maps, a lot of time spent pulling it all together and visualizing it, whereas now we're doing it all for them, saving considerable time as a benefit. We can also interact with the reports, so any of these subgroups you could click on. So this example here, we've drilled into a particular crime type, violence with injury, and you can quickly see where those are across the region, and Martin pointed out there's drill through and drill down possibilities. So any one of these circles, if you wanted to find root causes and more information about it, you could drill through to other pages. I'm not showing it in this demo, but if you're interested, we can certainly highlight how that would work. Again, on crime information, this is about trending data in the last 7 days. Again, with the same crime types, this has been kind of heat mapped. The darker shade of blue highlights more crimes. So in this case, we're having more event types of stalking and harassment. Potentially due to the current situation in the world, with everyone being in lockdown, that could be why. But without drilling down into the root causes, which you can do in Power BI, and that's the reason why we have these tool sets. It was very hard to visualize that before, when you've got plethora of different data sources, and one of our ERPs, niche, to get that insight would have taken many hours of work across many districts to highlight that. Again, most of our reports have the district hierarchy built into them. So whether it's all of West Yorkshire Police, or you want to drill down into a specific region like Bradford, Leeds, etc., the hierarchy has been built into the warehouse, which means basically consistency. We're not reporting again different numbers for different districts. One area that I'm kind of keen on to highlight is, we've demonstrated with Power BI that there are plenty of cacheable savings, whether that's migrating and decommissioning existing visualization tools that we use, but also non-cacheable ones which affect our risk and reputational image. One of those areas is missing people, and also wanted people, BOLOs, be on the lookout for, and the ability to kind of highlight who's missing, how long have they been missing for, what risk level they are. So we use the Thrive matrix, so threat, harm, risk, investigation, engagement matrix, to identify where should we prioritize our energy in terms of these kind of vulnerable people. It's all on one page, whereas before traditionally it would have been probably done on a whiteboard. And we've done a lot of work with certain districts which run reports on a 24-hour basis, and they're having to send emails out really early in the morning. So they run the data at 5 a.m. and then at 7 o'clock send out an email. And by the time they read the email, the numbers aren't right. So this is real time. This is real time MISPR information here. And a look at BOLOs, which is a similar theme. It's wanted people, be on the lookout for. This is live information, so if officers were patrolling and a name crops up on here, they can actually have this on one of their mobile devices as well. So Power BI also works on your laptops, but is also available on a mobile device, whether that's a tablet or a phone. And just moving on to kind of the last section I want to talk around is, we're very focused on around, operationally, this is what's happening right now in real time in terms of crimes and occurrences. But there's a huge push for more leading indicators, so more predictive analytics. So what's happening in the future that we're based on historic performance. So we have here reports using statistical process analysis to work out kind of upper and lower control limits. The view currently is just set to everything, but looking at all crime types, if there are breaches in these upper and lower control limits, are there reasons why? Do we need more resources out in the field? A really good tactical and strategic piece that maybe not operationally they'll use, but at a high level to drive more senior decision making, a real good tool. And this is kind of supporting a lot of the new capabilities of Power BI, having the machine learning and the AI piece, which we're not even tapping into. SPC analysis is used widely in West Yorkshire Police already, so it's already established concept. So we're not trying to teach something new. I guess one of the big things about implementing a system like Power BI is that it is new, and you've got to think about police officers have to kind of adjust to this technology, and there's a huge people and process piece as well as the implementation of the technology. And I think the next phase of what we're trying to focus on is actually getting the most value driven out from the reports. We've got plenty of reports to show, and it's having huge impact, but can we deliver more value across all 5 districts as well? I'll hand it back to Lorraine if there's any questions, but yeah, I'll end it there.
Thanks very much, Danny. I think actually we're going to go across to Reese, because I think Reese has got a couple of cues.
I was going to probably go to the audience, Lorraine, because mine are just anecdotal ones that I'd ask myself, so it's probably best to get people who've dialed in. So I don't know if you want to run through those. Some have been answered in the rounds there.
Okay, I'll have to say that I'm not an expert on this area of business, so I'll read them out as best I understand them, and you guys jump in if you have the answers. So question number 1 from Paul Rate from Essex Police says, anyone connected Power BI to APMIS, and if so, what is the connection process? I've got to say I don't know what that actually is, what that system is.
I'm the same, but I'm gonna, if Paul, if it's a SQL database, it's going to be the database format that's going to be key. Although it's fair to say Power BI will connect to almost everything. Yeah. To be quite honest with you, but it's not necessarily the product; it's the database that's underlying it, or the format of the data that's underlying it, that's going to be key to that. It's worth I don't know which part of the organisation you're from, but it's probably checking with your IT staff on the back end of that solution.
Lovely, thank you. And the next one from Laura Archer. You mentioned a data lake. Do you have an analytical platform sat over that to integrate data sets, or are you structuring data in a warehouse?
Right, so me again. Yes, we are structuring that in a warehouse. Our data warehouse at the moment is on premise. We are looking at the options around it being hosted in Azure. There are some proof of concept work being worked on by our data team right now. There are other forces that have actually taken that step. I can mention Derbyshire as being one of those. They've gone directly for that. The decision 2 years ago for us to go on premise first was more informed around us getting the data and getting the solution out to the users as quickly as possible. If we'd gone Azure first back then, we would have had more hoops to jump through and more to assess around data protection impact assessment, obviously. What with it being at that time unprecedented in cloud for policing.
I can add to that, Neil, as well. We use SQL Server analysis services model to create some of that business logic. So like we said, we had a hybrid model. We have on-prem and in cloud. It deals with it fine. I think with the police, some sort of sensitivity of data going full cloud is as part of the decision-making process. We are still in that journey as well. I know some forces have gone complete cloud, so I don't think it's an issue, but some of the security concerns need to be considered.
Lovely, thank you. The next one from Tanya Rivers. Do you audit the access to data in Power BI?
Yes, is the very simple answer. There's an audit trail for everything. So there's an audit log for Power BI access, and also at the data level, there's an audit trail there within the data warehouse. Adding to that as well, depending on the sensitivity of data and who has legitimate reason to access it, there are access control elements that are taken into place and account on certain elements of data as well.
Lovely. And this next question is anonymous, but a good one. How do you use this information collaboratively, or is it just used by yourselves in West Yorkshire? I guess that means, do you share it with partners?
Our Power BI isn't really in as part of that at the moment, so we are sharing data with partners. Our data team are providing that to partners within the West Yorkshire region at the moment. Certainly Leeds Council comes to mind, and a safeguarding partnership with themselves, but we are just spooling that data through to them. They're doing the visualizations at their end.
I was just going to add, Lorraine, that obviously with the Microsoft platform and the SRM activities on the NEP, you could share that data with partners as trusted guests within your tenant, but that would be a decision for the force to do. But you could invite them in and you can share that data with them if that's what the force wanted to do.
Lovely. We've one here from Steve Cook from Beds, Hertfordshire and Cambridgeshire. I think I saw multiple data sources in the presentation. So the question is it possible to combine multiple different types of source, i.e. on-prem versus AWS and Excel, Oracle, etc.?
Simple answer, yes. Yeah. And that's part of what Dan has shown. He's absolutely right. That is what has happened. Commonly, it's our crime and our command and control system predominantly, but we are bringing into the mix. We mentioned duties management. I mean, Danny, the number of other sources that you can think of. There's telephony, isn't there? There's the
telephony, airwaves, lots. The blending of the data sets is really powerful. Bringing in HR as well, calm information. We're talking about a lot of operational things, but think about how you run a business, how you run the HR, finance. That all that can be dragged in. So blending of data to give more insights is truly really powerful, which it's not uncommon on these visualization packages. It's the Microsoft stack is really powerful. And we talked about sharing. Using Teams to collaborate. It's a really good step. In the right direction.
I'd actually say that it's in enforcing data quality improvements within our organisation as well, because of it being fed into the data warehouse. We're actually getting a picture of how clear the data is and what the quality of the data is. There's actually been a lot of work within our organisation around information management on driving an improvement on data quality, and that's been as a result of the work that's been ongoing for the last 2 years around Power BI and the data warehouse.
That's a good point, Neil, because it's often, we can get the data, it's the transformation of the data to make the visualizations, which is really important. And a lot of that sits with the business logic, and obviously data quality is also part of that, which is part of the whole challenge of this. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go for just one more from Deirdre from PSNI. Was your data warehouse designed completely from scratch, or was it built upon a legacy design?
From scratch. As I say, it is a separate team. It is our data team that have built that. But again, in line with when we started down the Power BI journey, is exactly the same time as when they started down the journey with creating the data warehouse. But it has been completely from scratch. And at its core, we're using Microsoft SQL Enterprise for that data warehouse.
Lovely, thanks, gents. I think we're just coming up to our time. If anybody has popped a question in the Q&A there that we have overlooked, we'll have a quick scan of them after the session and make sure that we send an answer back to you. So thanks to everybody who has put a question in there. Thanks to all of our guests today, to Martin, Neil, Danny, and also to Steve, who was helping out with the questions there, and thanks of course to Reese. That just leaves me to say thanks very much to you for joining us, and to ask you to please come back to us next Wednesday at 12 noon, when we will be doing a session on assessment centres and how to get the most out of Teams interviews. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.